Hi everyone, right, today we're going to be showing you how to do turfing on a slope, and it's also up against an existing lawn. So if you come over here, you see we've got quite a lot of rubbish we've got to sort out here, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut an edge so that when we put the new turf in it lines up with the existing lawn. We've also got a lot of holes at the back here, so we need to do quite a lot of levelling to fill those in. We've got a lot of rubble that we need to get rid of as well, because anything like that in the lawn is no good. So we'll get started with this, get this cleared and prepped, and then we'll come back, show you what it's like, and then we'll show you how to get the turf laid on here. We've also got two other bits to do, one over there, and over in the corner we've got some bits over there to do as well. So we'll show you what it are like and we'll catch you in a bit. Cool. Alright, as you can see, we're getting there. Done quite a lot of grading. You can see there's a lot of green waste that's come out of here, but also we've had a lot of very large stones. None of these are any good. Anything bigger than a marble needs to come out, so it won't work otherwise. Right, when you're prepping this, landscaping rake is best, although you can use the soil rake, which has disappeared. When you're raking, never rake downhill when you've got a slope like this, either rake up or rake across. So here we've got the last of the spoil that we're trying to sort out, a few stones in there. If you rake up, all the loose bits that we don't want to come to the surface. If you come over here a bit, try and fill up some of the gaps. Up here, as I've raked stuff from the bottom as it's gone down the hill, so what we do is we rake across the hill, so the soil that we want to keep should stay, but all the big stuff on top should go. And don't worry about it if it's too uneven, because once you start treading it like you would do normally, then you're actually going to get a good finish anyway. So as we rake, it will start rolling down the hill, which is bits that we don't want. So you can see all the stuff that we don't want coming off. Right, when you're treading this, normally you'd tread any direction, but because we're on a slope, you actually need to tread uphill. Normally you'd have a flat foot, so your weight spread, but we actually need to get slightly more compression in the soil to actually make it stay. So as we go up the hill, we actually try and put the weight onto the balls of our feet. You have to make smaller steps, which makes it take a lot longer to do. Because it's quite steep, you're just going to be very careful. Now unfortunately, the soil here is extremely dry, so it doesn't hold together very well. So if it doesn't actually work over the next 10-15 minutes as we try and tread it, what we'll probably do is wet it down, give it 10 minutes, let it soak in, and then we'll tread it again, and that way it should stick together a bit better. If that's the case, we'll show you that again afterwards, but for the moment that's where we are. We're going to clear the rest of these bits, another 10-15 minutes, clear the rubbish out of the way, then we're going to tread it and get it level and ready to go. See you in a bit. Right, okay, the soil is too dry, you need to give it a good soak. So just very, very lightly over the surface. What you don't want is to allow any water to start running down the surface, because then you've actually put too much on there to begin with. What we're going to do in a minute as well, because we've got an existing lawn to butt up against, we're actually going to cut the edge in. So rather than having the new turf laying proud of where the existing lawn is, either use a spade, which has a slight curve in it, which I'll probably use here because we do actually need to do this on a bit of a curve, or you can use a half-moving edging iron to cut down about 1 inch. I'll show you the turf in a little while, just show you why you need to go that far down, so that when we actually lay the turf in there, it should roughly butt up against the surface here, and we're going to need to seed the edge here. If you look down on the floor, there's a lot of bare areas that we're going to need to treat to try and help it actually match up with the new turf. Unfortunately, the seed I've got isn't the same mix as the turf I've got, so there will be a little bit of variation, but if we overseed into the new turf as well, it should help actually make sure that the type of grass that grows plus the colour should actually make it blend in quite well. We'll only know that in a few months' time when it's actually started coming up properly, but I'll show you that once we start putting the turf down as well. Alright, catch you in a bit. Right, as you can see along here, we've actually now cut into the edge of the lawn so that when the turf comes down, it actually lines up with the rest of it. If you look up to the top, see how it's rolled over the edge. What you do is get all your turf in place, and then at the end then you cut everything. I've left the scaffold board in place so that we can actually use that line to cut it. Once it's cut, it'll actually drop into the hole, and then hopefully it'll line up with the existing lawn. And like I said before, where we've got the bare patches, we'll put some seeding on there and then go into the new turf bit as well. So we've got that to come around here. There's about another 10, 11, 12 turfs to go down here. If we go down to the corner, Now here, what you want to do is never put part turfs at the very edge, especially where you've got patio or brick or any concrete. So what we've done is put the whole pieces at the sides, and then what we'll do is we'll roll out a piece on top afterwards, and then we'll cut it, and then it'll sit inside. And also, when you're laying these, check that they're nice and moist in the first place when you get them, because if they're dry, they're going to dry out really quickly and they won't retain moisture that well. But when you put them down, so that you can actually join them together properly, always make sure that you turn the ends over so it lies flat. So when you put the next one on, it's much easier to actually join them up. So, what I said is one I prepared earlier, but I haven't got it ready. So tuck it all in the edges. You see along here, see how it's got a nice even cut along its length. Now not all these turfs have actually got that, so I wouldn't necessarily use this particular one again, but it's not too bad. The mix of grasses on here is pretty good. The actual quality of the soil that's holding it together. So if you look here, you see they've got roughly the similar depth. That's what you're looking for with your turf. So stitch it together. So you pick it up, align the bottom and push them down. And as you do that, a lot of turf manufacturers say you don't need to do this because their turfs don't shrink. Don't believe them. Always stitch your turf together because you will get shrinkage. Mind you, the way the summer's going in Britain this year, we don't think we're actually going to get any sun, so they probably won't shrink anyway. We'll get plenty of rain, so it should grow fine. Right, I'm going to get on and do the other bits in a minute, and I'll show you how that comes out once finished. And then when we do the cut on the join up to the lawn, I'll show you that as well. Alright, see you in a minute. Right, so we're getting near the end now, so if you want to look down here. Now normally I'd use a bread knife, unfortunately my one's gone walkies, so I'm having to use a saw. And this is an old one, I wouldn't use this again. But I've left the timber in place, so where I cut the line on the edge of the lawn to make it match up, I can now use this to cut along that line, so it'll tuck in, hopefully. Just long, smooth strokes. Just follow the line of the edge of the board. Keep an eye on where you're going as well, because what can tend to happen, because it's quite wobbly, you can actually tend to bow out. And hopefully, this one won't do that. I think it's done it. Damn it. Yes, it has. Of course it has. Even so, we're not supposed to know what they're doing, can we? An issue with it. Right, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to trim this bit here to then put it back in, because it's actually sunk into the ground at the edge. It should still be fine. Now, generally not ideal, but in this case this will work, because I know that where this slope is, because the soil was so dry, I know it drains down really well, so this bottom area will get plenty of moisture, which should keep this piece absolutely fine. So again, we'll stitch it like we would a normal bit of turf. A little bit fiddly, but it'll work. And with the board in place, it allows us to make sure that where it goes down, it's actually inside the cut line that I put into the existing lawn. So this should match up nice. I've already stitched the edges of these in. And although it won't look amazingly pretty, it will grow. So now it's down, just tread it so it's in place. And then at the end, what we'll do is take the board away, and then you'll see how it lines up, and hopefully it should look pretty good. Still got a few more bits to do, so we should be done fairly soon. So we're back in a little while when we've tidied everything up, and you can have a look at the finished product. Right, see you in a bit.
Cut.
Right, okay, so we're done. So tips for doing this. When you're doing your turf, when you're doing the measuring initially, make sure you measure very carefully. If you've got a total of 50 square metres to start with, you need to add on 10%. So if you've actually if you're going to buy 50 square metres of turf, buy an extra 5. You see around the edges here, there's always bits that are going to be cut off, so they're going to be waste. So if you don't get the extras, you'll run out. And the last thing you want to do is go back to the nursery to go and pick up some more turf. one, you lose your rhythm, but most of the time what happens is you end up going to a different pallet, and then you end up getting different turf, possibly from a different farm, certainly from a different part of the field, and when you actually put them down, months down the line they've grown, they'll look different. So make sure you measure that properly. When you're going around the edges, make sure you cut those. Best tool for that is a bread knife, and it allows you to cut them through. Unfortunately, I had to use my saw today, which wasn't brilliant, but we've managed to get the finish okay. Now also where you're butting up to an existing lawn, now if we come in and actually have a look, what I've had to do is actually seed around the edges. There's no set rule as to how far you would want to come out, but we've seeded over, but we've also seeded onto the turf as well. So when that comes up, it'll actually graduate the join between the two, so it shouldn't look too bad. At the moment it's really brash and it looks too obvious. So if you seed between the two of them, and make sure to water them. Aftercare, water for 2 weeks at least. If it rains really heavily during the day, you don't need to water it, but if it's going to be dry and hot like it's going to be soon, we're looking at 24-25 degrees, you need to water it. Do it in the evening after the sun's off and it's cooled down a little bit. Otherwise what can actually happen is if you do it during the day, you can actually boil the roots and you end up killing your grass anyway. Normally you would be able to walk back on your lawn again and cut it in a fortnight, but on a slope, because you need to get the roots to actually knit into the soil, especially here because it's really dry, leave it for a month. That way it gets best chance to actually bite into the soil and actually set, because what can happen if it's, especially after it's damp, if you go on it you can actually make them slip down the garden. You don't want to do that because you're going to have to start again. And then when you're finished, grab a cup of tea and enjoy your work.